Cool. All right, you're live on your end,
Yep, yep, you're good.
and I'm live on my end. So we have two YouTube streams. You can either watch an Henry's channel or my channel. But hello to the audience and hello, Henry. How are you?
Doing good, man. Everybody, if you haven't yet, I'll go subscribe to Dodge Landis, man. For
Thank you.
for what it's worth, I don't care what anybody says. At least he has the consistency, commitment to actually cover all of this nonsense, and shows up time and time again. So at the very least, he deserves a subscribe. And if you haven't
Thank you.
already, go donate to him. I mean, goddamn, he's
That's
literally
very
flying all across America on his own
kind.
dime.
Glad somebody appreciates it. I've gotten so much guff over the last couple of videos. So I think for being somewhat objective about things personally, but it's nice to hear, and people should subscribe to Henry as well, obviously. And you've given me a lot of key information. You've been a very objective source too. So everybody be like, "Oh, you got it from Henry. He's not objective." You've been, I mean, people are pissed off at you from both sides. So that indicates that you're an objective source too. So thank you for being a source as well.
Yeah, I'm not perfect, but I try, and at the end of the day, I think a lot of people just don't like the fact that life overall is not that simple. They want that simple thing because it's less stress on their whole well-being, because they can just look at something and say A plus B makes C. That's always what it is. It will never be anything different, and it just doesn't work out that way.
No, no. And sometimes the Aaron side messes up, sometimes the DOA side messes up. And it's just interesting to analyze who might be successful with their case, who might not be. So I guess, I think a fun topic to start off with is what are your thoughts about the Aaron Smith Levin arrest? I guess it seems kind of minor ultimately. But you think they'll probably just drop it or ends up like Nance True, or I guess that's the most topical thing.
Yeah, so people think that I'm somehow like a purist Aaron hater. I actually am far from it. I commend the guy, and I've said that repeatedly before. Regardless of my personal thoughts on him, the fact of the matter is, objectively, for years, Aaron Smith Levin has given great platform to covering this criminal enterprise known as the cult of Scientology. Okay, that's just an objective fact. Not only that, but he's brought together a lot of key figures who are actually in it, including himself, that have given perfect foundational knowledge that otherwise would have been totally lost and gone.
Sure.
And you just can't take that away from him. I would never try to. And regardless of what you think about his personal life and some of the unprofessional and just frankly moronic behavior of his, you need to acknowledge that, because many of us would not have the wherewithal or understanding of what's going on without him. And so I also personally don't care if he bashes me. I really don't. I don't take it personally.
Yeah, it
I,
wasn't helpful with you, certainly. And I will say, like, so one of the reasons people grew the dislike is addition to behavior. It wasn't just, I mean, DOA you could understand completely, but it was a lot of, I never understood why he thought, I mean, look at the result. It was a good result. Why he thought you were a goner and such a jackass for doing that. It seems, I never got that personally, but
yeah, I have my own speculations. Like I think I've told you before, and I've said it in my own streams where, and again, it doesn't really matter what I think in this regard, but um, I have a suspicion, and it's in some way, shape, or form that, because you can't go that many years and have that deep of institutional knowledge without doing some sort of stuff that you could potentially be gotten for. So I just have because of that, I have I have the speculation that likely Aaron is some sort of asset, whether it be a paid CI or whatever you might have, and so that's really the only thing that I would go so far as to say that is my crazy negative Aaron thing to say. But I doubt that that's what it is. I think primarily a lot of the frustration Aaron had about me were, number one, because I had some sort of connection to Scott, which really wasn't much, and
sure.
secondly was
Well,
the
I see.
fact that I criticized him about how his history in his career, as well as his overall behavior in the foundation that he created, were just very unbecoming. And so the first thing I pointed out, right, it doesn't make any sense for somebody who self-admittedly has no sort of technical training whatsoever, came literally out of a cult where admittedly he had nothing, and then somehow went from that to managing a very, 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 very large, wealthy portfolio of assets totaling to hundreds of millions of dollars, without any sort of formal training. I have
Or
friends
connections.
or connections, and I have very good friends of mine that work at the Big Four, EY Consulting, Deloitte, McKinsey. I know a lot of people in these places, and the vast majority of them have quite extensive college training. In addition to a lot of them that do rank up high in the ranks, that are actually managing some of these very big portfolios, they do have a ton of family connections in addition to that schooling. And so that by and large is the norm. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's extremely bizarre.
Right.
So that was and then of course the criticism I had of his unbecoming behavior, with how he really disregarded a lot of legitimate points people had with the managing of the foundation, both the outright bashing of the people that received some of the assistance to whatever degrees, and then as well as the fact that he quite literally made a mockery of when people were criticizing him about the emergency line, and how there was no staffers. And I've personally tried as well under different numbers and private numbers to contact them for help, to test it, right? Because that's what you do.
That's interesting. Right.
And that's legitimate.
Number.
Regardless of what you think about me, that's legitimate. You can't have a foundation dedicated to helping people in very dire straits, and state very clearly that both the email and the phone number are there to help people, especially in crisis, not have people dedicated to responding to those times of crisis. And in fact, Nora actually admitted that she volunteered herself to be one of those crisis responders for the SPTV Foundation phone line. And so those are my two big criticisms of Aaron.
I mean, it's a fair criticism only because, like, yeah, Amy, who's been very active, going to a lot of these meetings, right? She I mean, the big issue is they promoted the phone number so heavily. Like, if it was listed on a document and you find it in Google and it takes a moment, takes a couple weeks to get your number up and running, fine.
Yep.
But yes, the fact that it was so in everybody's face, I don't understand how that works. Like, they're literally promoting it, and like, you want people to call. So how does that work? And they call it and there's nothing. And all right, so I want to ask you with your expertise. Aaron said he finally got his foundation registered in some regard. What I thought he already registered it for it, or I guess he got the YouTube giving program approved finally.
It's two kinds of tax registrations for nonprofits, particularly. One, you have to give a more detailed financial breakdown. One, you do not. It does take a little bit longer, but I think the fact of the matter is that it really didn't have to do anything with that process. He is quite a big public figure, and again, in his own right, he has, via his own words, admitted repeatedly that he is the front face of this foundation. And as part of that comes with, regardless of what you perceive or you believe, people have information about the whole sphere of giving, the whole sphere of nonprofits and charitable foundations. You can't expect people to understand what the hell any of that means, especially when you're right at the beginning stages. Think of any startup company and think of how utterly big of an ego they would have to say, you should just know what we're about. I've been to a ton of venture capital pitches and tons of other startup company pitches. It's no different, okay? Just because this one is a charity, you're doing the same thing. You're essentially in sales, okay? And the ones I've personally felt the most disgusted about, and the ones that always have been the most frustrating people to deal with, are people that have such big egos to show up and say, you should just know what we're about. Just, like, how do you not know? Are you kidding me? Like, this guy, how do you not know about us? Or like, we're the shit. And it's, no, people don't know. That's your burden to meet, and it will continue to be your burden so long as you maintain that organization. And so it was, yeah, to come right off the bat like that, it was just not a good, show. It's not professional. And so,
do you think it was malfeasance or simply overeagerness?
I don't think there was any maliciousness towards it, quite frankly. I could speculate, but I think it was just downright very egotistical and very unprofessional.
Yeah.
and he's proven that he can't handle himself in certain situations to rise up to that demand. And that doesn't mean that, again, he's somebody that is as a completely unreliable narrator, should never be
Sure.
trusted. It just means that you should be wary in those certain circumstances. And frankly, if I were him, I would say, let me have somebody else as a better PR person to handle this. And I'll handle the relationship building with, I'm sure, the big network of investors that he might know. Handle all of them. Like, do all that customer relationship management. Let somebody else that's more PR
Right.
savvy handle the front end of stuff. And I'm sure people would fall in love with it more, because the fact of the matter is there is only 2 dedicated foundations, charitable foundations, that do this kind of work specifically for this. There's a lot more to say on, integrity and whatnot, but as far as just the actual mission statement of 2 dedicated resources for financially supporting people that come out of this hellhole, there's only those 2, and it's just not a good look overall when this is what your first steps look like, your first impression is.
Yeah, and the one thing I did wonder is some of the follow-up, because I will give them credit, and it seemed like they were helping a certain amount of people. Someone that Steve Mango was aware of, that was a friend of his, for example, they seem to actually help. But have you ever heard of any follow-up with any of them? Or I always kind of wonder what happened after that first initial thing,
No,
really.
there's no public follow-up of any sort. So I can
Right.
tell you that um, there's nothing wrong with charitable foundations giving money and then taking statements and or doing public conferences with the people that they've helped. It's actually literally what NATO and UNICEF, or not NATO.
Mhm.
That's what literally stuff like UNICEF and
UNESCO.
United Way is what I meant to say. Do
Okay.
okay.
Right.
That's literally what, and there's tons of other charitable foundations that do the exact same thing. That is the backbone to showing legitimate proof to verify that we actually are doing good work. And you don't have to keep the recipients of the support under like extremely tight knit NDA. You can allow them to share, how much they would what they received, and you can and they
Right.
can talk about what the money went towards. But you can't demand of them to say things like it went towards this particular medical expense. And
Sure.
likewise, the
No.
foundation can't and shouldn't be talking about, we paid for this specific thing for that particular person at this point in time to this tune, and this is the process, particularly with that person. You can talk about generalities similar to how other nonprofits talk about ones that help homeless people or shelters. Say, we apply for 5 grants, we use some of that money to manage our computer systems, and then the rest we gave it to supplying our food trucks that then feed
Sure.
people. That's the kind of stuff that you
Detail.
could and you should be talking about. So
Right.
it's no different just because the word Scientology is associated. It's all the same stuff, man.
Well put. And then I was going to ask you, what do you think is going to be the outcome of the arrest? Is he looking at the same charge that Nance Drew pled to, essentially?
So yeah, he got charged with a simple misdemeanor battery, but the thing is,
Right.
every state has different definitions of
Well,
what they
sure.
mean, and that's the problem. As far as time serves, honestly, in this, if I were Aaron in this situation, I would actually go through and have a trial. I don't know the local rules for Clearwater if they have a probable cause hearing, because some states
Right.
do have that even for misdemeanors, where you essentially challenge the discovery up front before going through the whole procedural process of motions, voir direing the jury, and all this other back and forth. You just do that up front. Some states do have that, and
I
as a
see. It'd be
statewide
efficient.
thing, other places do that on just a court by court thing at the municipal level. So I don't know for Clearwater, but if I were Aaron in this particular case, he's just he's going for the process, right? As we say, right? He's been taken, that the process is is the punishment. And so
Right. Sure. Tying him up in court and stuff. And I mean, ultimately, they could just drop the entire charge.
They
I'd
could,
imagine.
yeah. I mean, enough people could pressure the DA.
Yeah.
In that case, it's also different where smaller areas will have just the DA versus a city attorney. Similarly, like in Massachusetts, for example, most cities here just have a DA,
Yeah. I mean,
not a city attorney and a district attorney that process misdemeanors and felonies. Many states are all like that. Whereas bigger ones like LA, here we have a city attorney for misdemeanors and most civil handlings, like prosecuting
Right.
companies that don't adhere to environmental laws. Then the DA prosecutes felonies, period.
Right. Interesting. I mean, yeah, Sandy Hill makes a good point because it says Aaron has said it's better to take a plea in the past many times when it comes to protesting charges. And then, I mean, there is a little bit of hypocrisy in that regard because I personally think pretty much every arrest, whether it be Nash Drew, whether it be Danny, whatever, all the even DOA for the initial stuff that he was arrested on, a lot of them are pretty chicanerous. So it's ironic when he's saying, oh, they shouldn't. I guess the difference Aaron would claim is that these protesters are asking for money, and that he's not, maybe. But I never understood that, where he's, seems to be quite proud of himself that this is all happening and wants to go through a full trial and everything. And as he should. I think the charges are BS. But it is, I do lament that he didn't extend that same philosophy towards Nance Drew, towards you, even towards DOA. Towards a whole bunch of protesters who he essentially cursed them away and said it's their fault. They're the idiots and they're being worse for the movement. And, I mean, you could be a perfect protester. I look at Denmark where they're a lot more chilled, but there's a lot more stringent rules. You can be a perfect protester and not do any of that, but you should. And if that's the way to do it, then Aaron should behave like the perfect protester, of which he's not. But the hypocrisy is something of note, I feel like.
I saw the incident. It was a very stupid thing to do. Let's be very upfront, all right? And so on that alone,
stupid. I mean, that's a good question. Was it stupid? That's a good question. I mean, was it? I guess it wasn't chalk, but it was like it was the water that chalk is collected in.
It was very stupid because that's the problem. In an area like LA, that very well could have been meeting all the elements for assault. Very well. It doesn't matter that it Yes,
wow.
The thing with it that is, it depends on each local area. If the local Clearwater courts do not have the element that say you're there to instill fear, even if it doesn't make contact. So in LA, as long as there's a perception of fear, that is grounds enough to satisfy meeting the element of assault.
Really? I mean, it seems like a stretch, though. I mean, is it that fear?
You would be surprised because they could go and make certain things to claim that it was. So if it was LA, for example, they could talk about the sheer size difference. Aaron has talked repeatedly, and I've seen him. He's quite built, like he's football level built, and so the size difference you could claim, the prosecutor could claim, was very menacing. The fact that he extended a part of his body in an attempt to make some sort of contact. In this case, they just so happened to be not a deadly weapon, but the intent was there to extend a certain part of himself in order to, push himself onto this person. The other thing could be just the fact that he has repeated encounters in the past. But the most interesting thing with Aaron when it comes to court cases is that he will not prosecute anything. He's talked about before where he's been tailed, and even I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe he was actually crashed into a very minor accident by a Scientologist. That's perfect grounds for getting an RO against that Scientologist.
Sure.
He did not do that. Second thing, which actually came before, but when he was falsely arrested, he never sued anybody. He never he didn't sue, and that was a great case to have. It was a fantastic. I know he said he's talked to lawyers,
even though he didn't get held over in the night, which I kind of felt like the reason he didn't do that is because he wasn't held for that long.
It was just the fact that they booked him. That That right there is what his legitimate claim could be. And what would have more than likely happened is they would have settled. They would have settled with him. Because they would not have stripped qualified immunity from the LAPD. LAPD is so, it's so effed, so there's no winning against the officers. But they would have settled with him, and just to show them that you're not willing, especially if somebody like him who is of means. It'd be different if it was somebody that was not of means, but Aaron is a person of means, and so he has the means of time and money to go and handle some of these situations, but he won't do it.
Well, and you think it would be great content for him?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So.
I made the city of LA settle on a bogus
Right.
false arrest.
Right.
Or I prosecuted and got an RO against this Scientologist, car crash incident included. Like, think of all the viral headline clips, and I don't care what anybody says about, oh, he's just doing it for content. So what? It spreads the message, and
Sure.
it's legit. Like, it's so yeah.
Well put. One comment that somebody made with the respiratory stuff and the material that could cause respiratory issues. I mean, if the guy put on a mask, doesn't the respiratory issues not matter because the guy already put on his protection, and Aaron would see him with a protective mask?
Yeah, so the counter to that would be, well, Your Honor, he's an elderly person. The reason why he has the mask in the first place is to defend against such things. And here we see him doing such act, and therefore it's taken as a deliberate act with intent to cause harm.
Do you think the DA would try to follow through with any of this, or just be like, screw it?
That's the problem, man. I don't quite know the history of the DA in Clearwater like I do in LA, but a lot of DAs are hit or miss. They're supposed to be for the people and actually prosecute legitimate cases, but every DA does have a legal and ethical responsibility to take on cases that actually have merit and not just take them on because of political pressure, which
Sure.
Clearwater, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Likely this person has gotten some sort of donations for their campaign from this criminal racket. So, if he was lucky enough, like I did with Heidi, and he could attend a meeting and record and ask the DA about himself, but unfortunately he's way too popular in Clearwater. They would know his face instantly, and they would never say something stupid like Heidi did in my situation.
Well, that's another segue I want to ask you. A lot of corruption with Heidi Soto, and you even kind of recorded her kind of being honest about some issues. So yeah, telling you about that is kind of a fascinating tidbit you uncovered.
Yeah, so perfect thing about LA is that there's always crap happening, literally all the time, and there's they don't announce it, meaning their offices don't announce it, but Bass meets just about every freaking day of the week at some public space, and that you can go confront her. So does Heidi Soto. I found through one of the many public events that she was at was the Sherman Oaks Homeowner Association. Okay, they do this public event where they literally video record and live stream candidates that are running for a political office.
Cool.
So they had Hawkman on there, they had Heidi Soto, and they've had lots of other people. And you can actually go on their YouTube channel right now if you search up.
Well, it's a helpful source.
Yeah, Sherman Oaks Homeowner Association. You can even subscribe to their email newsletter, okay? And that's how you get notified on when their next politician is going to go to their public event. And it's a public space, okay? You go in, and she was brought on to be a keynote speaker, okay? There was tons of people from the press and the public there. She got interviewed afterwards, and I interviewed her, and that's how I recorded her on the shit that she was saying. But that's how I found out where Heidi was going to be speaking. And rather than doing the whole, like, get up in her face and, like, confront her, I wanted to see what she would naturally do. And I didn't even ask her about myself. I actually asked her about her thoughts on this this one woman named Audit LA, who is really passionate, and she talks about Scientology and how she's talking about this a recent protester who got charged with a bogus vandalism case. And then that's where she just went off, because she expected that she was in her sphere of little bootlickers. And there was all sorts of deputies from, like, the LASD's office, the city's office, the neighborhood councils, the mayor's office, and a bunch of other local government agencies who had their cronies there, you know, to show face.
You just fit right in. You like dress up or whatever.
I literally just had on my regular suit, and
done.
I went there for the food because they had
Nice.
food. I was like, man, why not? That's how you got to do it, though. When people
Smart.
are looking to do stuff, especially for a lot of people that they don't know your face, it's a perfect way to do it, man. You have no expectation of privacy in public. When she was literally also being live streamed on their stupid channel, you can literally see it. Okay, they got a whole table set up and everything. They were streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, and so yeah, it was great. She didn't know what I look like, and the funniest part is, towards the end of my recording, you can actually hear several other people. After she starts talking about Scientology, there's like these two other women that are like, oh, we hate Scientology. One of our friends was in it. They abused her. And how are you not against Scientology, Miss Cydia Attorney? How are you not against them? It was the funniest thing ever.
They actually confront her and talk to her about it.
Yeah, because they overheard, you know, the conversations that she was having, and she was trying to say, oh, I don't really care for them one way or the other. And I was like, bullshit. We know they donated money to you. Go kick rocks. And you're prosecuting cases for them on a political basis. And I'm not even the first. Jay was the first guy that really got shafted and was told he had to shut up about them altogether. And that's why he literally had to shut his mouth for a year period. So yeah.
What was his case originally based on? Because Jay was around before I was around.
Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it was for similar to what Scott got prosecuted originally, which was like disturbing religious services.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Or it was some sort of noise violation. I think it was
right.
a noise. It was obviously misdemeanors, but it was noise violations, which. Not only did he get prosecuted via charges, but he also got arrested.
That's wild. They followed through with all.
He got arrested. It was just to make.
Wow.
It was just to make a point. And Jay, okay, the thing you got to understand is that Jay has the backbone of that Pokemon called Ditto, where it's like literal jelly, and so not everybody's built to have a very confrontational personality or tell people to F off. Okay, not everybody's built like that, and they can sense that because that's all the prosecutor's office is, especially Heidi's office. They're just a bunch of bullies, and that's all they care to do. They're not competent, and they think if they just throw their weight and their name around, that you'll just, you know, submit. And when you don't, that scares them shitless because they don't know what to do with it.
Funny. What if he fought the case? Do you think they just would have had him not guilty or thrown it out if he just stuck through?
Well, that's the thing with LA. With misdemeanors, there's no real probable cause, but you can make one. This is where having a good attorney, you can make one. Those pretrial hearings really are basically mini trials. You can go to town, okay, and start trashing on the prosecutor in a good legal way and say, listen, like, this is all crap. Let's just dish it out right here in front of the judge. You could do that. I've seen it done. The problem is that there's practically no good lawyers in LA that aren't trying to screw you just as bad as the prosecutors are trying to screw you. And people don't understand. They all eat at the same table. Okay, they absolutely are having private backdoor conversations without you about your case, and they're not telling you about it. And I know for sure because it happened to me. And repeatedly, and I was expecting it to, but that's the problem. Okay, there's no real activist lawyers in LA. There just isn't. There's an extremely small sample of lawyers that will do very good work in very specific things like Dottie with family law. And then when it comes to criminal defense law in LA, unless you're
you don't think DOA's lawyer is an activist attorney?
No, and that doesn't even mean anything. And I'll tell you why. A guy like Benjamin Crump, okay, the very famous guy who defended George Floyd, okay?
Sure.
When I reached out to him about a civil case that I want to pursue against the city after all the whole shenanigans I went through, he won't take it because he's not going to go against the city unless you're a perfect victim. That's what the civil rights / activist lawyers in LA are about. You have to be a very perfect victim. They're going to get
press, right? I mean, they get a lot more press doing George Floyd than you, or doing somebody who got killed by the police than you.
But not only that, they won't go against the city. It's okay if they go against the city in very specific ways. If their client got brutally gored, brutally murdered, and it was a whole scene. And the client has to die too. You can't just like make it out of there and be okay. You have to die. They won't take it because it's not enough money, and it's not the perfect circumstances where the city will continue to feed you into their loop of other crap that's coming down the pipeline. It's a very incestuous environment, and that's how it works. They will not go against the city unless you're an extremely perfect victim, and even then, you're not going to get the justice that people really want to see. Like, for example, an LAPD officer losing their post license. They won't do that. They just won't, because it costs them more to go against the city than it would to just settle or do half measures, or unless you're the absolute extremely perfect victim like George Floyd, then they'll take you on. Otherwise, you can go kick rocks, and they'll just let you be chewed and spit out through the whole court process. And most people are scared shitless of legal / court stuff in the first place. They see those stupid 2 lines on the side with the numbers on each on the paper, and they're like, oh fuck this already looks complicated. But when you actually take a couple moments to read through it and understand, you're like, this is stupid. Really, like, if you can read or write,
right. Well, I mean, sure, a part of that is if there's press watching you, you could almost create a smoke screen where you challenge the city once a year or something when all the press is paying attention, i.e. George Floyd or something like that.
Yep.
And then the average Joe, though, doesn't get the same activism or the same rights.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that the city attorney's office is happy about that, because that there's a once in a blue moon high profile case, but all the small stuff they seem to just be able to steamroll through.
Yeah, so I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, there's this platform called Unicourt where you can search up court cases.
Yeah, updates.
So I went the very long extra mile, and I actually contacted one of their engineers. And I specifically wanted to see if they could help me do some research on the length of time that cases go on for at the misdemeanor level. And I wanted to see, based on the demographics of the person, the types of charges, how long that person was held in pretrial on average. And I can tell you that the vast majority of people are either stuck in limbo or get absolutely terrible deals that ultimately convict themselves of things that should have never been convicted of, just to get it over with. The vast majority. People think that when they think about areas like LA, they're like, oh, it's a mecca of democracy. LA is one of the most extremely far right and conservative areas I've ever fucking seen in my life.
Yeah, you telling me I was shocked by that, man. It's it's like the whole movie Chinatown with Jack Nicholson in the 1930s, and they're uncovering the corruption of how the water system is and what the justice system is. And those connections, like 90 years later, are kind of the same.
Yeah,
Like,
for example, racism, fucking terrible in LA. You go to New York City, you know this. I've been to the boroughs. I've lived there before. Nah. People will get along. Is it there? Yeah, absolutely. It's nowhere near as bad as it is in LA.
Yeah.
It just isn't. I know even you can pick it up. And having the benefit to be in both places, people think that you're crazy, but the fact of the matter is they haven't fucking traveled. And they haven't seen it. Right. It really is bad. And I just saw the comment about Jake. So Jake, the only reason why they do that is because, again, those are very specific victim circumstances, and there's a political party that's backing the support of helping certain. In this case, there's a lot of propaganda from the Democratic side about combating donors of those that support the Israeli government. And the pro-Palestine people are seen as a way to mechanize whether it be legislation or other political support. So they're not doing it because they care for the fact that the whole shit with Israel and Gaza is all sorts of fucked. Okay? NLG has a very specific
Yeah, Jacob Harkey brought up NLG too as
Yeah,
well. In our
it's
end.
very specific. I've talked and I've reached out to NLG.
I mean, right. The NLG, I don't like it. It's just amazing because the NLG is like super hard left. It's not the normal, like just progressive. Because I worked for a candidate who was part of NLG. She was like anti-establishment, anti-machine. It's a bummer that the NLG doesn't do any of the protester assistance.
They won't.
Right.
People think they will. People just like they think the fuck is it, the not UCLA, the other one. What's the ACLU?
Sure.
Okay, they think the ACLU, or I remember seeing it all the time in the beginning of the movement. They're like, get the ACLU involved. I'm sure they'll help. They don't fucking care. They have an
Right.
extremely
Right.
party.
We're not big enough. People, right. People keep saying this. Oh, make this bigger. They're not going to pay attention.
And even if it's bigger, you have to be part of the right party. It's party over people. They don't give a shit. And people need to understand from people that have actually been through this, they don't fucking care. You're not from the right party and you're not doing the right things that the party wants you to do. They don't care. They just don't care.
So this is a fascinating comment. It's something I want to ask you about. Sandy Hill says she watched Kathy Griffin. And so I watched Kathy Griffin talk about what happened to her after her Trump choke, of course, at the famous holding the decapitated Trump, which I thought was an overreaction. She said not only did she lose a lot of people in her life, she spent $1 million on a lawyer who worked at Hustler because of government charges. I might presume that the only well-known Los Angeles lawyer who worked at Hustler is Cape Lovitz, who now is representing DOA. I thought he seemed to be a decent enough attorney, but you've seen him in action. What do you think? Do you think DOA is in good legal hands?
Yeah, so I'll give you, to the best of my recollection, and if people don't believe me, first of all, you can go to the court cases yourself. But second of all, if you really don't believe me, there's actually this website that you can actually order the audio transcripts from. Okay, it's called freetherecordftr.com, and you can order both written and audio transcripts, which in LA they do always take audio recordings of the criminal proceedings. It does take a while though, so I saw a lot of people say you get them in 2 days. That's bullshit. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks to actually get audio transcripts, and then if you want to get written ones, forget about it. You're gonna look at far longer time. So I just want to put that out there. I saw his lawyer in action when he was defending Scott. There's a lot to say, but the one thing that particularly got me was the fact that, frankly, he was given a very particular, he was given a lot of rope by the judge to really help his client get off. And that rope was the fact that he was making a First Amendment defense claim, okay?
Right.
And she asked him a very specific question. She said, I understand. And she's very much more actually inclined to believe him.
Let me interrupt. Was this at the bail revocation hearing,
Yes.
or you're saying early? Right. Okay. Yep. So after the bail revocation hearing, to stop him from going back to jail, Cape Lovitz was using the First Amendment.
Yes.
Or the judge even brought it up.
Yeah, the judge actually wasn't supportive of it, but she was trying to help dig into, okay, but help me see that through to the end. She asked the question, what is it that bringing up all these people's family members, what does that have to do with the First Amendment? Because that's what he was doing that. Okay, he was absolutely doing that. I'll circle back on what happened that day, but just this particular point, okay? She was trying to look for him to say, and this is what would have been a great defense for the First Amendment, to say the following, okay? There's been people that have expressed various sort of concerning conduct in this activism movement in order to help identify some of the other concerning behaviors, especially by those that have tried to actually conspire with family members in order to submit some of these various threats, not only to my client, but the people that my client is involved with. That was the sole reason of why he was expressing that, there is a potential interest in people getting to know who their family members are, and how it is that they're possibly linked in some of that harassing behavior targeted towards my client. He didn't do any of that. And the thing also that didn't help is the fact that I just truly don't believe, okay, I truly don't believe that his lawyer was even ready to take on what was transpiring in front of that day. The whole thing of a lawyer, I know a lot of people don't like this, to say, and they don't put it on the lawyer. But as a lawyer, you should have a high level of control over your client, especially when your client is trying to talk out during the hearing to the judge.
The DOA was like almost monologuing
Yeah.
at that hearing.
He was.
How stupid.
And that's literally what the judge said. She said, I don't think it's in your best interest to talk. Your lawyer's here.
And was the monologuing literally like, it's all a conspiracy. There's shrimp boys trying to get me and everybody's trying to get me. And like, he sounds like a schizophrenic who's being scared of being gang stalked. What was that? The general pitch?
I wouldn't.
DOA
Yeah,
talking?
I don't like to say the whole schizophrenic thing and all that.
No, that's just me diagnosing, which I have no right to do so. That's
totally fair.
Right.
You can say what you want, but it was just very unbecoming. And as a lawyer, he should have told him to shut the fuck up. He really should have. He should have said, I need a moment to confer with my client. We're going to step out. We're going to come right back. We're still holding this hearing, but I'm entitled to that goddamn time and you're going to give it to me. He didn't do any of that shit. He just let his client roll into his own grave, and it was a fucking slaughterhouse.
How long did DOA speak uninterrupted? Was it like
It's many minutes. Many minutes.
Minutes?
Yes. And many times. It was not once. It was multiple times.
He's worse than ZDT.
That's the whole fucking thing with a lawyer. Okay? That's what they're there for. They're your mouthpiece. So that shit like that doesn't happen. And even if it did, to immediately jump in and say, I need time to confer with my client. Get the fuck out. Go out in the hallway. And then do damage control and come back in. He didn't do any of that. Not a single time. And even if the client is guilty, which frankly, from all the shit that I saw, not only out before the court, but the shit that was presented directly in court, some of the shit that even I hadn't seen, I was like, okay, let's be serious here. Okay, let's be actually fucking serious for a moment. PC, what was it, 623 or 632.2? It's cyber harassment, and you can wobble between a misdemeanor and a felony. Absolutely.
He's guilty of violating his bail.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. 100%. There's no doubt about it. And it's not an isolated incident either. He has done this repeatedly. It's not a joke. I've said this a while back. The people that egg him on and that try to pretend that they're, play dumb, LA is different, man. People don't fucking get it. They will come after you just to fuck with you, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. No other government official will hold any other government official accountable in LA. Here, they don't care. They'll tell you right to your face you can go fuck yourself. They just don't care, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
Well, shouting conspiracy is always the dumb move, because the judge will always say, I want to focus on the very specifics pertaining to this case.
And even if it is a conspiracy, you still did the thing. That doesn't excuse it. That's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Okay?
So Quinn mentions, cue to subscriber possibly, Quinn mentions, doesn't he have court on Monday? Yeah. So I'm going to be there. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think he'll get his bail revoked, or do you think he'll kind of pretend it didn't happen and there'll just be another continuance?
That's the thing. Like, LA is LA. Okay, there's the procedure and by the book shit, and then LA says, fuck you and your grandma, I don't care. So they could very realistically say that bail is not revoked, and they'll just have a probable cause hearing. Or it could be, we're not even going to discuss bail. They're going to go straight into just regular pretrial motions.
So they might not even discuss
and just
bail.
have or just straight up have a continuance, say, next hearing. Any of those individually and or together could fucking happen.
I could show up to LA and it could be all of 30 seconds and they could just do a continuance.
Because it's LA and go fuck yourself, yes.
Yep.
I don't agree with it. I think it's totally fucked, especially for felony cases. And I'll give you a perfect example.
Maybe I won't go, but
Curran Price, a sitting council member, okay, charged on 10 fucking felony fraud charges, who is absolutely guilty, okay? This dude is the fucking Weezar of 2025, who has had these charges for about a year and a half and has gotten straight continuances, back to back to back to back, for 10 felony counts of fraud, okay? Continuances. He got another continuance that's, I believe, in October of this year, that was supposed to be a probable cause fucking hearing about a month ago. It didn't happen. Procedurally, it's supposed to. He should have had that damn probable cause hearing a long time ago.
He's entitled to it. Yeah.
They won't. It's LA.
Can the attorney be like, you didn't follow process, therefore throw this case out?
And that's the problem, because it's so fucking political in LA and it's so dirty here. will the prosecutor, especially if there's either some sort of FBI cooperation agreement or if there's just political exchanging of hands, which current Price literally does, okay, his family members are so deep into the real estate racket that is in LA, changing money, sweetheart deals, and some of the homelessness fraud. Everybody's in on it. That's the real corruption story of LA. Okay, Scientology, it's a real estate racket, and there's some other criminal shit too. But that's the real story of LA. A place that is so deeply corrupt that it's the government perpetuating all this shit, and the refusal to prosecute anybody at the government level that's actually the real masterminds of this shit. And that's why I keep saying the biggest gang in LA is not LASD or LAPD. It's the fucking city attorney's office. People don't understand this. And the DA's office, especially currently. How can you prosecute criminal charges against anybody? Only the government. Right. This whole press charges, people don't get it for shit. That doesn't mean anything. No. I'm going to press charges. That means nothing. What any of us, the only thing we can do.
I want you to press charges.
We can take our sorry tails between our legs and walk over to the police station's office and then beg them to fucking take a police report. That's it. That's all you can do. You have no power. The only people that can formally file criminal charges are the prosecutor's office at the DA or the city attorney or the DOJ with the U.S. attorney for federal charges.
Right.
That's it. It doesn't work any other way. They don't care. It just doesn't work. This whole, I'm going to press charge. You can't do shit. And why should they care about your case in particular? Are you a political donor? Are you a backer of the city?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is it kosher for Moxon to be heavily involved as he is?
As far as the cases for Scott and mine, yeah, because he represents the interests of the victims, which really aren't the victims because
the victims would be the owner of the property that got affected.
Or even just the people that made the observation. So like the complainant in both cases, well, both of Scott's cases were Scientologists, and so he's totally right in being there. What's not right is the specific time for my case where Jennifer made a totally bullshit false statement saying that she personally was a victim of that specific date and time of June the 16th, 2024.
Oh, I didn't miss that.
And she wrote a witness statement as part of my case, okay, and gave it to the prosecutor's office. This was back in sometime in November. And I was there for that day in person, physically. And she stepped over to the side and talked to the prosecutor and handed them this little slip of paper writing basically one sentence that I'm the victim and personally, and not Scientology, she personally is the victim of the vandalism. How you go figure with that, I don't know, but
what was her reasoning? Did you ever read it?
Yeah.
Did she say she was hurt or traumatized?
Yeah.
Or?
That's why my case, it's not even to brag, but the reason for why my specific case is still such a good goddamn case and why I made out the way I did so well, and that whole plea deal, really, if you want to call it that, I orchestrated that whole deal. Yes. I came up with the terms. I came up with the exact grounds. And that's why I was totally acquitted of the vandalism charge. Completely.
Right.
Totally acquitted. And got a non-criminal civil infraction of loitering.
No misdemeanor. Right.
Loitering. No, not misdemeanor. Loitering.
Oh, so you only got loitering. So you didn't even get an infraction
it's a
for
ticket.
Vandalism.
It's a ticket.
So the only thing you got was a ticket for loitering.
A ticket with no fines.
Cool.
I got no fines. So it's a ticket that has no fines, no penalties, other than to say.
Funny that DOA was trying to present this as you lying.
You can literally
you having a massive failure.
And I've shown you this on the second floor. Anybody right now in LA could fucking drag their ass out of bed, go to the second floor, over at the Clara Shortridge Court. You can look up the last criminal master order, a minute order on my case, and you can see it for yourself. It literally says fucking loitering.
And it was a success. And by the way, respect to you, I don't think you ever raise money from people for an attorney. Well, obviously you didn't, because you didn't, or did you? I guess, yeah, you raised a little bit you used attorneys very lightly, but.
No, I did. Actually, with the help of everybody in chat, okay, The non fucking unhinged people that give a shit and care. Again, my hat's off to you. I don't think I've said thank you enough, but that's the other way how I made out like gangbusters. Like I
Right.
paid nothing in lawyer fees because it was all covered. So what I learned is how fucked up LA is. I learned basically all the local rules for criminal proceedings in LA. I learned exactly who Heidi talks with. I learned all the names of the officers involved for helping Scientology do all the stupid, dumb shit. I got people like Jennifer to perjure herself and make bullshit statements, and I did it for free.
Put in the record.
That's fucking great. And on the record, that's fucking great. That is great. And even though nobody like Ben Crump will represent me, as somebody right now who has nothing going on for themselves other than a lot of time and eventually law school, I'll happily prosecute my own civil case because now I get a whole fucking practice session to sue the city of LA and all the other assholes that were responsible for colluding to try to fuck with me. And even if I lose as far as not getting the ultimate conviction against the city, even if it's a settlement, it's the fact that you don't back down and you learn so much out of it. Yeah.
It's precedent in case anybody else tries to do it.
Right.
There was enough there to create a settlement and have enough there to discuss a settlement and the court approve of discussing a settlement even.
And they know if it wasn't so goddamn weak, Heidi would have never acquitted me of the fucking charge. Never. Absolutely. Never. Not in a million years. I have literal footage. Danny saved my ass and my life. June the 2nd, okay, he removed the netting and pushed it off to the side. Never prosecuted. Scott did the same thing June the 2nd. Never prosecuted. June the 16th, which my specific charge was for, there was 5 other people there, did the same thing, none of them prosecuted. That's the fucking textbook definition of malicious prosecution. And because I have the political intent part too when I recorded her ass, that's a good fucking case.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a good goddamn case. Even just to get it on the record, to file the suit, just so it's on the goddamn record, not just on YouTube, but on a real court case for a civil rights action, both at the state level for malicious prosecution and at the federal level for a Title 42 in 1983 under color law to deprive your rights. Just to do it. Just to do it.
Yeah. I'm curious if DOA, because I think he has a little more worse than you in terms of charges, quite a bit worse. But do you think DOA would have gotten or would be more likely to get a similar result that you got if he were more intelligent and shut his mouth and didn't make an enemy out of everybody?
I mean, he really fucked up. He really fucked up with his felony cases. He really did.
He made it a lot worse, didn't he?
It's so bad because for him, there was nobody else around. He single-handedly out of fucking nowhere. He actually did cause damage. That's his problem. With the planters, absolutely he did cause damage. That's the problem. Now, whether it meets all the other elements of a felony...
So did you, arguably, in your thing,
no.
sort of.
No. Even on the police report, it actually expressly states no damages. Literally.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess if he could replant it...
He cut... That's not what he did. He cut the actual...
So I'm saying for you, on your case, if you could replant it and there's no technical damage... Yeah,
which is exactly what happened. I have a footage literally on the 19th that I showed as part of that discovery.
So that's
why.
Difference.
That's why. And it's the element of having other people that did the same thing never prosecuted. It's the fact that there was never any verifiable damages. And it's the fact that I recorded them, picking everything back up, reusing it. Where's the damage? Right. Where's the damage? Where's the intent? You can't find any intent either. The whole thing they had on intent is that I had called Scientology a chomo cult, which it is. That's a fact. And that's all they had. And that's First Amendment anyway.
Right.
I'm not calling any individual, but their organization absolutely has colluded with big time child predators that have done despicable things to kids. Okay? That's a fact.
Right. Well put. But I'm curious, what let's pretend DOA was smart with follow up. Let's pretend he wasn't lazy and put in a lot of effort to gather the footage he needed. What do you and he and let's say that Manshuri, that's another discussion we'll have. Manshuri apparently didn't want to take him on as a client, and they've been effective in the past with Josiah and some others of getting a good outcome against Scientology. If they got a lawyer who knew Scientology, what do you think best case scenario DOA could have gotten the results with? Do you think he could have gotten it winnowed down to a violation, got the charges thrown out, or gone to jury and the jury will just say not guilty, which obviously could still happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. You know, people, just because somebody says it doesn't mean it's true. Scott has repeatedly called, and it's not even that he is relevant. I'm more interested in his case, specifically in how the prosecutors are moving, which I still find total bullshit that they're even prosecuting him, of all people, on felony charges. What happened to the bald guy? Why the fuck was he not prosecuted with a felony assault with a deadly weapon when he had a goddamn knife? He was repeatedly threatening to shank and kill William Good at the test center back in December. Okay, whatever happened to that? Why wasn't he prosecuted with felony charges? Okay, why was it the fact that George Gascon's own deputies went rogue and started filing felonies on Danny, on Cameron, Josiah, and arresting them and putting them in jail?
Right, very selective.
And the only reason, by the way, that they got those charges dropped, first of all, you got to know the DA's office is 10 times worse. The only reason they got those charges completely thrown out is because Gascon was actually a good DA. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I fucking love to talk about Gascon. He's not perfect, but goddamn.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Gascon versus Hockman, who's been involved in a bunch of murky cases before he got elected. So yeah, I'll also tell you about that because I'm curious about that.
So Gascon, for those that don't know, actually worked as a beat cop for years. He actually a weird background where he actually has real life experience working not only as a cop, but then working as a prosecutor, and then to rising up to being the DA. And Gascon has his one unique trait that nobody else to this day as the DA has. And that is that Gascon can fucking read and can actually think in a scientific fashion. When Gascon took office, he issued special directives, which every DA is entitled to do, saying that his office will and will not do certain things. The certain things that he said that they will and will not do were all backed, not just because he said it, but he did this beautiful thing, which I very much respect, as somebody who's my whole career has been trained to think as a scientist, where every claim he made, he would have various peer-reviewed longitudinal studies explaining why what he's saying is true, link to those studies, okay, and then talk about some of the not only key findings in those studies, but the extent to which he's not agreeing with those studies. All Hockman has done is pander to absolute morons on TV talking about how he's a good prosecutor, but when you look at his cases, especially like the one in ASAP Rocky, he fucking drops the ball. He's a shitty attorney, and he's miserable to be around. He's just not a good lawyer. He just isn't. He's not a reliable or credible narrator either. His background is that he defended the two biggest absolute like psychopaths and criminals known to LA County. Those people were ex-sheriff Lee Baca and ex-undersheriff Paul Tanaka. Lee Baca terrorized the ever-loving shit out of people in the county jails. Dude had all sorts of...
Bull Connor. He's like a modern-day Bull Connor. It's kind of wild. Too.
Yeah, dude, he's a terrifying fucking... Like, he was a lead counsel for both of them. Paul Tanaka was ordered to go send deputies over to the FBI agent, I believe her name was Michelle Fox, to go and threaten to kill her and her family for the investigation that they were doing into Lee Baca, because they were going to bring him down. Okay, he was trying to kill and hide the FBI informant that was in I think his name is David Brown or Alex Brown. Okay, tall black dude. that had a phone by the FBI that was recording all sorts of shit via photo and video footage that ultimately got Baca and Tanaka convicted. These guys are straight cold-blooded killers. Thankfully for them, but it's really not the best form of justice. They got convicted on obstruction of justice. Okay, they didn't get convicted on the other shit, which is the fact that they started deputy gangs. Tanaka himself fucking admitted that he has a goddamn gang tattoo. That he's a part and a leader of one of the gangs. And in fact, some of the conversation, when you actually take a look at some of the public debates of who's going to become sheriffs in the 2010s, Todd Rogers was one of those people making a run who was promoted by then Sheriff Lee Baca to be a head deputy sheriff. And part of those conversations that he was having against people like Paul Tanaka were, hey, I'll lift up and show you my ankle if you show me yours. I have no tattoos. Let's see your tattoo. And Paul Tanaka couldn't fucking do it because he's a goddamn gang member. That's the kind of shit that Hawkman represents. He doesn't care that you know that that's what he represents. And how the fuck is it not a major ethical conflict of interest when you have all this dirt at the county level and you're responsible to the county for defending the two biggest criminal gangsters? It just doesn't make any sense.
How come the LA Times hasn't caused that much noise? And I'm asking about that too, because, you know, the one time they only talked about the protest movement was to be very flippant and dismissive towards some of the protesters and kind of, you know, in my opinion, paint them as these gadflies or as these crazy people. So what's the deal? Is the LA Times just, are they worried about access? Are they just obsessed with having, you know, that 30-second interview with Soto or Hawkman, or like what? Why are they so asleep at the wheel? They used to have all this prestige, but now they're like worse than Inquirer.
No, I agree. Like, Will talks shit about LA Times all the time. I do too.
Yeah.
I know the reporter. Okay, so you want to talk about access? Let's talk about access, okay? There's so many goddamn snitches that come to me and audit and Will.
Good.
What access are we missing? What do they know that I don't already know at this point about LA City? And not only that, I'm involved with the politics. I actually read court cases. I know how to do this on my own research. And the fact of the matter is, what's lacking is real local journalism. LA Times is shit. And in City Hall, on the 3rd floor, right next to the City Council chambers, there's this little media room. It's actually public. You can go in there. Okay. This guy, I forget his name. I know how he looks. He's a goofy older man, gray beard, transparent glasses. Okay. He has his little shitty press badge and says LA Times on it. He gets access to the underground parking directly at City Hall. Nice. Some have said that he also has a city car, which I believe, but I haven't seen him personally.
Love parking, hot commodity.
But it's all these little.
It's worth your soul if you get to save a 10-minute walk. That's worth your integrity.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, right. Absolutely. But that's not it though. He also gets a little mini fridge in the back and a monitor, a private monitor where he can see all of the city council proceedings as they're going on. That's his access. What the fuck else do I need that he has access to, or any of his other LA Times cronies? Okay. Right. Well, I don't need him to do a CPRA, and I don't need him or any of their cronies to do a writ of mandate to sue the city for not adhering to CPRA and public records laws. No, none of us do. And that's the thing with all these legacy media institutions. People don't need them to do reporting, especially with live streaming nowadays. Nobody does local reporting. Nobody, and does it competently.
Right.
And there's so much meat in LA, bro. You don't have to go looking for the story. You can literally just exist in City Hall and some of the other committees and just listen, and you'll find all sorts of shit. There is no lack. Okay, there's no lack. In fact, there's too much. There's too much, and that's why I'm like, I gotta prioritize, because I know for my future, the best thing I can do is if I get that stupid bar license card to have access to all sorts of special areas that I otherwise wouldn't have. You know, I could literally visit people in jail whereas nobody fucking else could. They'll tell you to go fuck yourself. There's all sorts of special rooms also in the court buildings and elsewhere, even in the libraries, that I could get access to if I was a lawyer.
I just laughing. Everybody's commenting your piano. Guys, it's a green screen, and I'm at my mom's house. That's the background. He has a green screen, and I'm at my mom. Yes, our backgrounds do look similar.
That's right. Yeah, I'm actually in the next door. Hey, honey, can you just get me dinner real quick?
Right. It does look similar. But just so you, and in case they kept asking about the dog. So here. That's for the people asking about the dog. Yeah, he says hello. Anyway, I was gonna ask, so with all of that, do you think that the prosecutors made a promise to Scientology? Do you think Scientology was like specifically, I think it's important, you need to follow up with it? And what do you think, if so, why do you think they treat Scientology with some urgency? And I can say with some very specific urgency because ZDT has violated his bail and nobody seems to give a shit. And only a couple days after DOA violated his, boom, here's a hearing scheduled. So yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts on that.
Same proceeding, same procedures, and yeah, I agree. Yeah, why so zealous? But not the other way around. Why so one-sided? Right. And not only that, okay. December 2023, Hollywood Public Information Office for the LAPD literally issued a public letter, blasted everywhere, specifically saying William Good, Jessica Palma-Dessa, and all these other people who are speaking up publicly and streaming their activism against Scientology are an organized gang of criminals with the intent of doing harm and destroying people. The fucking LAPD saying that.
Right.
That's the LAPD. Issued an official statement. 2023. The PIO office did that. That's textbook case, okay? When taken in conjunction, when taken in totality of the repeated malicious and selective prosecution. Textbook for political intent, not just the singling out, but the intent is there, okay? The political intent.
Word. Yep.
So that's, again, if people really want somebody to be mad about, okay, if you really want to do something, go challenge the DA's office. Write and call to them like mad and saying, why are you not protecting the people that you swore to protect? I'll give you another example. This is utterly disgusting. But May 7th, 2024, when Wendell, the homeless dude that Scientology paid to wield a machete, menace people, and took his junk out in front of a child, broad daylight, where people recorded it. Officers saw it and said nothing happened. I know for absolute I know for absolute fucking fact. William will back me on this, and so will Audit LA. Absolute goddamn fucking fact. Heidi wanted to let that entire thing go the way of the statute of limitations to not prosecute it. And what was written in LAPD reports is that, well, he did all of it while he was next to a tree. It doesn't count.
Never heard that.
He did it next to a tree, so it doesn't count. And so I've asked at the LAPD police commission, I said, if I take out my junk right here, right now, and there's a tree next to me, and there's 50 kids in front, I'm not going to jail. You can't prosecute me. I have case law to show as such.
Right.
So you want to talk about political favor? That's it. It's not one off. It's not 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. This is a lot of meat to chew on to file cases. And that's what some of the stuff I've been working on. And I look forward to by the end of this year. And again, even if no lawyer will take me up on it, I'll prosecute it myself. Fuck it. Just to say I do it and to learn from it. Because there's no other way you're going to learn. There just isn't. And so in that regard, I thank the city attorney and the DA for being such utter fuck-ups. Because this all should have never happened. But because of their stupidity, it is going to happen.
Right. When are the elections?
Coming up this year. Yep. coming up this year.
Is there a candidate who you think is less corrupt? Because I want to, I hardcore want to be there for the entire election time in 2026 for that. And
Absolutely,
like
dude.
really,
Every
really
every
able.
public meeting, right? Every public news press, you go to Heidi and say, "Simp for Scientology." That's her career legacy.
Is she running for re-election?
Yes.
Is she definitely? And she's running for re-election.
Yes.
She's
Her
already running.
her only competition is a woman that
Is a
worked
South
for her.
Asian gentleman running against her?
There's just one woman,
Oh.
unfortunately. It's
Oh, it's
a
a woman,
woman
that's
that worked as a deputy city attorney for a bit. And I actually messaged her. She never got back to me. But from what I know about her, nothing.
That's a bummer.
Nothing really there.
Can we mold her? Can we be like, listen?
She is relatively young. I think she's in late 30s.
Cool.
But she's not. That's just it. These are not people that have a fucking clue on what the reality is, and frankly, are even have like the backbone to competently do something about it and actually stand up. And if they just imagine this, you take just half of the shit that you and I are talking about, as well as some of the other people involved in this.
Thought to unpack.
How much power would you have over Heidi? Literally, all you need to do in any of your press meetings, turn to Heidi and say, why are you supporting Scientology? Why are you supporting the human trafficking cult known as Scientology? Immediately destroyed. Immediately. That's all she would have to do to win. And hammer that point repeatedly. Why are you supporting Scientology? When all these other politicians have gone on the record and say, we don't want nothing to do with that. Why are you supporting Scientology? Oh, and by the way, why are you supporting Scientology? That's the whole reason I ever got involved in this shit show. Not because I care about Scientology. I wanted to expose the government corruption. That's the real truth. And you get the Scientology part to say you were a fuck up as a city official in this capacity, and you hammer him with that point. Why are you a simp for Scientology? Mayor Bass, you're a Scientology mayor. Why? Why? That's all you need.
Right.
Nothing else matters. It's still very viral in the eyes of young people, especially. That's all they need to hear. Mayor equals Scientologist. Holy shit. That's all you need to know. City attorney equals Scientology simp. Holy fuck.
Right.
That's it. That's a career-ending move.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so we have our work cut out for us. And then, I hope with a challenger, I could go to her events and say, will you make exposing this shit a key issue and taking down Scientology? And you can say yes or no. But there's certainly an impetus to do it. And that leads me to ask you about ZDT and stuff. What do you think is going to happen in the future? Part of me thinks the prosecutors are just going to drop things. Like, is it odd that they allowed such a massively long continuance? Like, it just seems bizarre if you're on trial for all these things to be granted a continuance like 4 months later. Doesn't seem usual. Maybe it is in LA and you're given the benefit of the doubt with the progressive attitude, but I'm curious about your thoughts on ZDT.
He's a dangerous individual. He's a very dangerous individual. He's proven as such.
Yeah,
I'm shocked that felonies have not been brought already. I truly am.
Right.
He's made it known. He's relentless and you won't stop. And it's the whole reason why I went forward with getting my protective order. He won't stop. He just won't. And that's a problem. Okay, it's been demonstrated repeatedly. That's a problem. It's got to be addressed, and it's not being addressed appropriately.
That's yeah. Do you think they actually even want to prosecute him?
Good question.
And why do you think they initially did it in the first place? Was it William being very aggressive, you being very aggressive? Like, it took them forever to do it, but why do I'm surprised they even lifted that first finger.
Will of the people. Absolutely. If it was not for people coming forward and taking upon themselves to defend themselves through the courts and then repeatedly hammering law enforcement and the city attorney's office, I doubt anything would have ever happened. And that's a damn shame, unfortunately. But that's what LA is, and people need to know that. They really do.
What do you think the likelihood of it actually going to trial is?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Do you think that if they were trying to give him a plea, do you think they would have offered it already?
I mean, you take a look at a guy like Curran Price, a year and a half, for literally the easiest provable felony fraud case. The guy has 2 wives. He's lied about being divorced with one of them, having them live in the same property, and then being caught on it, double dipping into insurance money, and his entire family literally has their hands in just about every real estate deal in the city. And even worse, talk about fraud and corruption. The way that any grant and any funding and any contract that the city is involved with, every single term in every single contract has to make its way through the city attorney's office. Meaning, Heidi Soto has direct involvement with all the negotiation, execution, and management of each of those contracts. She knows, her deputies know, and they're committing billions of dollars of fraud. And even worse, somebody like Heidi, you got to understand where she comes from. Okay, thanks to Michelle McGinnis, for those of you that don't know, Michelle McGinnis worked as a deputy city attorney for about 30 years. In the time that Heidi came into tenure, this is what happened. Michelle McGinnis was promoted as the head director of the criminal prosecution branch. Okay, with that power meant that she can prosecute companies and individuals. Okay, so she could file criminal charges against companies, other entities, and individuals. In that time, Michelle was picked out from, I think, about 4 other people that Heidi was vying for. He ultimately personally picked Michelle because of her tenure, of her competence, and her good nature. She was the right person for the job, and rightfully so. In the time that Michelle McGinnis was in her position, she had come across lots of damning information that exposed Heidi for defending real estate companies, defending and showing favoritism to other people that were political supporters of her, and maliciously going after and targeting other people that should have never seen their day in court at all. One of those that has been repeated target of Heidi's is the people that make the fucking Watch the Watchers website. The website that every one of us has used.
Interesting case. Yeah.
She went after them, and not only the coalition as a whole, as a organization, but the individuals involved in it. Okay, to fuck with them because what? Because they're exposing corruption and they want information to be in the hands of the people about who is involved with the LAPD. Why is it that you're getting prosecuted by the goddamn city attorney for simply listing on a public website what the salaries of an LAPD officer is, what their serial number is, and what their rank is? Some have photos, but all the ones that have photos are already public-facing people in the first place. They're literally at the desks. They're literally senior lead officers or beat cops. And how much money they make. Specifically, their base salary, their pension, any overtime, and extra bonuses. That's what she fucked with them for years on. For years. That's the kind of person that Heidi is. And then not only that, but let's talk about her divorce case. Her divorce case went on for, what was it? I think it was well over 7 years. And she was sanctioned. She was fucking sanctioned by the court for $250,000 for maliciously and vexatiously and frivolously going after her husband with bullshit subpoenas to get all sorts of records that had nothing to do with her divorce case. She was utterly paranoid, thinking that her husband was hiding money in all sorts of accounts that didn't fucking exist. And that's the reason why Citibank permanently banned her from every location on planet Earth, because she's utterly nuts. Okay, she's utterly nuts. So much nuts, in fact, that they wrote 1,200 and I think 6-page fucking declaration explaining how each of her claims about her husband hiding shit, colluding with other coworkers to hide money, they debunked each and every one of it. And ultimately, she was sanctioned for making her husband go through that shit, and the fact that she repeatedly disobeyed court orders to not draw from the community fund when she wasn't supposed to as the divorce proceedings happened. Fired like 4 or 5 fucking law firms because none of them wanted to put up with her shit. And rightfully so. And from what we see in the Michelle McGinnis complaint, Heidi worked for a good chunk of time for the Arthur Anderson accounting firm, which was the fucking accounting firm used by the Enron Corporation when they were committing their big time financial fraud. The fuck else do you want to know about Heidi and the quality of her character?
Sure. No,
Like that's all you need to know. And many deputies have come forward as whistleblowers in addition to that's what I forgot to say. Michelle McGinnis was fired, by the way. She became whistleblower and she got axed by Heidi, and she's suing for wrongful termination as a result of that. Other deputies have come forward as whistleblowers talking about how Heidi's reading their fucking email. Just fuck you. That's who Heidi is.
Well, hopefully we could uncover, a lot of those connections to Scientology. It's less of a sexy issue, obviously, or it has less eyeballs than some of the other stuff. But that's the hope in the future, and the hope that we uncover a direct relationship. Here's an odd question. Since it's 2026, ZDT keeps getting all these continuances. The election is 2026. It might not be, he might not have a trial until 2027, January, February. Do you think if there's a different DA, they'd be more aggressive and things would move quicker, perhaps?
Could be. People like Hawkman, again, my problem with him is that he does a lot of press conferences. And when a DA does that and he has nothing to actually show for it in cases, you actually read cases, it's all a giant dog and pony smoke and mirror show. I want to see what it is that you're doing, Hawkman. I want to see he ran on the tough on crime. That was his whole platform. I'm tough on crime. I'm tough on crime. One of the directives that Gascon had, and he was actually sued over this, by the way. His own DA union sued Gascon because one of his orders was that we're not going to throw enhancements at the people that were simply the low-level grunts that were dealing with drugs. Okay? We're not going to go enhancements on them. We're going to go enhancements on the capos and other ringleaders. Okay? Those are the people who go enhancements on. And we're going to give commutations of sentences or lower sentencing to these other people with cooperation. That makes fucking sense. That's not something to be pissed off at a DA about. And other non-violent offenses, he said, we're not going to give them as harsher a punishment. And instead, we're going to put them towards other, ideally some sort of rehabilitative programs. The DA union took issue with. They took issue with, and if you actually read their complaint, they can't even fucking refer and reference the Gascon's orders correctly. They can't even type the stupid directive out as he had actually written it. They took out a civil lawsuit against Gascon. Ultimately, they dropped it just to fuck with them. Because Gascon understands how fucked up LA was. He's not perfect. Sure. But he was willing to try to change the institution so that they're not just violently going after the poor people and then ignoring all the criminal rackets.
Fortunately, that's all that election is about. They don't really care. Voters are not going to, because the LA Times won't do their job. Voters won't know about the corruption. They won't know that Gascon was maybe a lot less corrupt in some other regards than his counterparts or subsequently. It's all about one sentence. Oh, tough on crime. He tough on crime. He crime. And that's it.
Yep.
It's no other, it's no other issue. And that's a big tragedy. And that's why, I think it's important for me at least, and you too, which I think you'll be doing, to really look at the candidates in the election, because the LA Times is not doing this, KTBS is not doing this, or KTLA is not doing this, and ask the candidates, what will you do about Scientology? And some of the deeper stuff we were talking about. But no, it's a shame because it should be it should, at least in the political world. That's another thing I've noticed, which is an interesting difference. You were talking about the Sherman Oaks situation with having a bunch of having the candidate stuff. That seems like a far and in between thing in LA. Like I know, because I was involved in New York City politics. So like I knew an Alvin Bragg was running for DA, he'd appear at 10 different forums, as would every other candidate, and people could ask the questions and ask him about stuff and ask. He had an even more left opponent, amazingly, ask her questions, ask the more right Helene Weinstein questions. Are there that many forums or accessible ways you could know? It's amazing how little people care. At least in New York City, like it was in the paper, there'd be forums, 100 people would show up. At least people be like, oh, I should pay attention. They should be more than just stick figures. I should pay attention to like all of these. This is actually a pretty big office. But that's the tragedy of that. LA doesn't seem to have that. Not that people care that much about New York City politics, but it had more interest and oversight than LA. No, I mean, it's how Bass got elected. Very unremarkable person, but
Yep.
That's always been fascinating to me.
It really is that bad.
Yeah.
Perfect example. I'll give you actually a backstory on Shrimp. Funniest fucking character there is out there. Great comedic relief.
Yeah.
But if you actually listen to what he says, he's very big into the politics of LA. He knows quite a lot. You just got to talk to the guy, and you learn quite a bit. So the funniest shit is that he's told me about how he's gone to some of these other city council meetings to give public comment, and every time that he gets to the point where he's legitimately criticizing people like Todd Rogers, for example, he's a police chief. He has of Lakewood. He has no police officers at all under him, and
that's life.
But he's getting paid a police chief salary.
Are they hiring?
Yeah, and they're not. There is no police force. They use private security that are not licensed post officers. But then when he brings that up, okay, and he talks about the corruption of, LASD, beating the shit out of black people in the jails and all this other shit, he's gotten escorted out of the meetings. He's not screaming. He's not yelling. He's not issuing racial epithets. Nothing that would turn people off. And they'll just fucking escort you out. That's the kind of crazy shit that happens. Literally, it's a goddamn, like, worse than a mafia gang. It really is that bad. And when we talk about access, like what sort of access are people like the LA Times getting? They're getting jack shit for access. In fact, you take a look at their stories, especially a lot of them on police corruption. It's usually copying other reporters that are local, from people like the LAist or LA Taco.
Yeah.
And then they just fucking copy their stories. So what the fuck are you doing in terms of journalism? They're not doing shit.
I remember when I got fired from my job for talking about Scientology, I contacted the LA Times. The woman was like, I'll look into it, and never got back to me. And I thought that was a shame, because they used to, at least like 5 or 6 years ago, be pretty decent at covering Scientology. But I've noticed that coverage has really stopped in like the last 2 years. It's very strange. They used to be like pretty good at it, and now not at all.
Yeah. And there's political figures like what's her name? Bondi.
Pam Bondi, sure. Of course. Scientology's great friend.
Yeah. And what are they doing right now? They're hiding. And to talk about the Epstein files, just really quick. Yeah. People don't understand what that means, okay? When I hear people talking about Epstein files, there's a very specific meaning I have in my head, which is the following. Did he do child predator stuff? Yes. But here's the thing. You can't do that kind of stuff without money. When I hear Epstein files, I think specifically what financial slush accounts did he have? Who did he broker money from? When did he withdraw money? When did he send money orders? To the tune of how much? To what institution? To which people was he involved with? That's the real Epstein files. That's what they're not releasing. And that's how you find out exactly who this whole criminal enterprise is. That's everywhere. You can't competently talk about something if you don't understand budgets or money. It's always about money and control, because that's what gives you power. That's what it is. And that's what they're not releasing.
You track the money. You see who's involved. You see how big
intent,
the conspiracy is.
Motive. Yep.
Right. I mean, it's ironic that there aren't all these players involved, minus Maxwell, on the stand with Epstein, when Diddy, that was for his own personal use. And this is more of this is an obvious trafficking thing. Yet Trump might pardon Maxwell now at this point, he's been saying.
Yeah.
And I feel like obviously there's dirt on both parties. And Trump has been involved in stuff and Bill Clinton has and whatever. So it's a shame. But yeah, I mean, and I do wonder, do you think there was ever Epstein had any Scientology connections? I feel like had to be at some point.
Had
Yeah.
to. This is what Scientology is, okay? Because I've worked in manufacturing for most of my career. The way it works is you have to have different levels for organizations that do different functions. When
Right,
you're in a
different levels.
business, you have a part of the business that handles the financial accounting, holding the general ledger that itemizes expenditures. Then you have the procurement, which is what Scientology is. Scientology is the procurement of people to traffic through their schemes of faking citizenship, visas, and careers, and so forth. That's what Scientology is. They're the middleman for procurement. Okay,
Right.
that's a service they provide. And so, absolutely, they were
Organizational ability.
they were one of the biggest procurement houses for people like Epstein. And then
God,
Epstein
that's
was,
fascinating, right?
and then Epstein brokered those people to whoever the customers were. Okay, he was the salesman. Scientology was the procurement officials.
Wow.
And they handle all the warehousing. I don't care what people say. That's the fact of the matter. They handle all the warehousing of inventorying people. If they needed to transfer them over because the inventory was too hot, that's exactly how I think about it. And I know I've heard Serge talk about it the same way, because it literally is industrial operations, but of
Right.
human trafficking. And that's how they make their money, which gives them some sort of revenue to then dump into other assets to launder it for cleanly, right?
Right.
You have real estate that you can say, look, we have money in these assets, we're legit. But the money is coming from what? Not only
Right.
the trafficking part, but the services that they're rendering post-trafficking, where the auditing in particular, okay? That is the money that's coming in. And that's
That
the
is
services
money, yeah.
that people are getting, that's being rendered to people like the Tom Cruises and whatnot. That's what their money is being funneled into. And that's exactly how their operations work. That's exactly how it works.
Yeah. I wonder if there's no prosecution, federal prosecution, really, of Miscavige, because I wonder if there is some Epstein connection and he knows a lot of where the bodies are buried for a lot of powerful people. And so stuff about him comes out in trial that's related to Epstein, that's related to elected officials, that's related to government officials, that's related to top lawyers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, why was Mark Rinder never charged? Why was Marty
Right.
Rathman never charged?
Right.
I don't want to just see local
It's the
state charges.
same era.
Yeah,
Same era that Epstein was around is when
I want
Marty
to see
Rathman was around.
federal charges, federal indictments.
Right. Right. Yeah, well, he says so. Tom Cruise is on the island. That is interesting. They've never mentioned Tom Cruise ever being on the island.
Yeah, well, I mean, why would they, right?
Right. Right. You'd want to have somebody who's
that's
more throwaway.
yeah, that's the what we call in like the software space the broker, where all the data streams come in, and then point of entry, if you want to think of it that way, for airports and travel and whatnot. He was just the broker. Okay, he was the salesman, but the procurement officers were Scientology.
Do you think Scientology, because what they do is they take kids from parents at a young age and put them at a different location,
Yep.
whether it be a Delphi, whether it be some of the LA places, whatever it is.
Yep.
Do you think they might have worked with Epstein to rent some of those kids out because there's no adult oversight? Obviously, they're not spending a week at a place, but renting them out for a few hours.
Well,
An
you
exclusive
need safe
place in
houses.
LA.
You need safe houses.
Right.
Where the fuck are you gonna get the safe houses? It's too expensive.
Scientology has a lot of property.
Exactly. It's too expensive to have all sorts of you're just like a company when, say, you want to fabricate like a piece of a part of a machine, but it needs custom special work. What do? You contract the work out.
Right.
That's the function that Scientology was able to provide.
Right.
And they got rendered a fee for it, and safe houses were part of that.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. And where do they have influence? New York and LA.
Absolutely.
And Florida.
And the biggest crime rings in America, period.
Right.
Full stop.
I mean, it's funny. They're all the same places that Epstein was at, pretty much.
Absolutely. Same places that all of the biggest known criminals
same city, right?
Right.
Well, not West Palm. They're across West Palm versus Clearwater, but not far from each other. No.
Right. And biggest rackets in LA, real estate, which is
Right.
exactly what the homeless fraud is. You know,
Yeah, what's the news of that? Like Katie Hill just got appointed, who was a disgraced congresswoman who had a threesome with her intern, and crazy story. But now she's been appointed, and all of these people are saying, well, there's been specific fraud. And yeah, they've even made claims like there's no homeless family anymore in LA or something, which is
yeah. So
insane.
I want to bring up something fucking hilarious, okay? And this is coming from somebody that's talked to the FBI repeatedly before. People think that the government is so goddamn smart, especially if you've seen just laying the context here. Did you ever see those Edward Snowden documentaries?
Sure, great piece of art. Yeah,
So
I've seen
Edward
that.
Snowden's a goddamn fucking hero. Hats off, forever, an absolute
course.
legend. The
Yeah.
funniest part is that when you listen to some of these, what Edward Snowden has to say, you find out very quickly how utterly fucking stupid and incompetent government is. And no
Yeah.
matter how many intelligence assets or intelligence agencies you have, how the fuck is it that you have so much intelligence, but you can't even fucking prosecute? Okay, you can't even fucking prosecute a government official that you're tracking all their financial transactions with to say you're committing fraud. So how intelligent are you really? Okay, unless you're deliberately withholding that information, and it's the people that are actually prosecuting these cases and fucking winning as a result of it. That's what big fucking cases like the LA Alliance v City of LA
Right.
are showing. So we don't need the intelligence community to be better or catch people. The people are fucking tired of it, and so how useful is it that these intelligence communities actually are? Well, you found out actually, manufacturing is a perfect example of this. The most malicious actors that I've had to defend against, like critical infrastructure that's supplying power and water and so forth, the biggest actors that I've had to defend against have not been against the CCP or Russia. It's been against U.S. intelligence assets selling information over to the CCP and Russia for a fee to fuck with America.
Right.
That's your real domestic terrorism, is your intelligence fucking community. Those are the real assholes that fuck with and are the biggest threat to shit like critical infrastructure in America. Because how the fuck else do you have that deep level of knowledge and understanding and competency? Where the hell else are you going to get it? Unless it's people here that sell that kind of information for a fee. And so when we talk about fraud, right, homeless fraud, for example, and all of these shitheads that are appointed, Hawkman doesn't know how to be a good lawyer because he can't even file a good fucking... He doesn't even know what a witness list is. I posted on Twitter a photo of the Lee Baca case. He was on trial with Lee Baca, and he was... it was Hawkman's turn, aka the defense's turn, to call up their witnesses. But to do that, you gotta file something called a fucking witness list with the court. You gotta serve it to the prosecutor and the court. He didn't fucking do that. That's the dumbest and easiest thing for anybody to do. It's just a simple list of names and who they are. Just a very simple table, like literally an Excel table, and then the rest of the heading is a simple legal pleading. He didn't fucking do that. He got his ass chewed out for it in court. You can see it for yourself. So this is the kind of like dipshittery that we're talking about here. So anytime people are saying, "Oh, Big Brother," and they're so smart, they're really not. I laugh when I look at people like Heidi and Hawkman because they're idiots of the highest order.
Right.
Absolute fucking idiots.
Yeah, and it shows. Hopefully there'll be some change. And I'm glad you're there because the press isn't there to talk about it, and these connections are pretty obvious. Once, I guess my question is, what are the next steps? We have all this information. What can we do? Do we go to more meetings? Is being involved in the election and trying to get, KTLA accidentally get it on a live feed, or what can we all do that's actionable? I know Amy and
I'll tell
LA
you, this is the
funniest meetings.
Funniest shit. Okay, if people want to really go viral, just like they did at the Celebrity Center, if you want to go viral on TikTok and YouTube, go and troll the shit out of officials over at City Hall. Go to the meetings, not because you want to sit there and listen to their whole camaraderie bullshit, because it's all bullshit. All that shit is bullshit. Okay, go there to fuck with them. Okay. Sure. I don't have it here, but on my Twitter page, okay, I do this thing where I'll zoom in on the city council members' faces as the meeting's happening, and you'll always find the same shit. For example, Bob Blumenfield, biggest fucking idiot, but I love him because he's so stupid. He's always stuffing his face with food and falling asleep. Every goddamn time, okay? Always fucking comatose or shoving food in his mouth. People love that shit, okay? Another guy, Marchese, the president of the city council. This guy has such a Napoleon complex, and I caught him doing the most hilarious pouty face, and I was trolling the shit out of him, and I was showing my stream, and some of my other channels that I have, they're so small, they start getting like hundreds of people watching live because of dumb shit like that, and it's hilarious. So you want to go viral and you want to have the next stage, show up at City Hall and make that shit fun.
Cool.
Okay, and you'd be also surprised.
Find Shrimp.
You have a dude named fucking Shrimp,
right,
who sings in a goddamn dress in Mandarin, okay, talking about fucking Black Lives Matter and how he's a trans queen, and you want to go viral. There's literally high school kids that will show up because he's a fucking icon and a legend, and they know him from other people making TikToks about him.
Sure. Local celebrity.
So literally, that's the next step. Go and fuck with the city officials by showing up at those meetings.
That's actionable.
Just to fuck with them. That's what you do.
Last question. Why did DOA, is Shrimp involved in the DOA conspiracy? Did Shrimp orchestrate all of this? Explain how.
Yeah, man, dude, I'm telling you, Shrimp is already paid off by Osa. Fuck, you gotta watch out. That dude's a mastermind. Yes. Holy shit, he's gonna send some. I don't even fucking know. He's hilarious, dude. That guy is an absolute fucking idiot, and I love him for it. And so does Audit. He's not a fucking mastermind, dude. Literally.
Why did DOA say that? Just because he was there in the room, I presume.
I imagine probably because I've had pizza with Shrimp, and I've fucking hung out with him and gotten food. He is like utterly addicted to food. I film it because it's fucking hilarious.
Well,
this guy, you watch him, and it's the craziest shit ever. He'll like vacuum up a whole goddamn meal in under 2 seconds. People love that shit. I don't know why. They fucking love it, so why not? It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny. Amy said, I've been trying to get Dodge to cover the meetings. I do. I mean, I'd like to, and I've been lagging on that. It's hard because it's hard to cover them because I admire the footwork that people go through for waiting the entire meeting, getting their thing heard. But oftentimes, if you're talking about anything Scientology, it doesn't actually have much to do with what's going on at the actual council meeting. And so therefore it's not news. And I hate to say, but not particularly interesting. It's important that people hear it, but I should physically go and see, if there's, just in case something, that it's a just in case situation, right? Just in case something relevant pops up.
Really the next step besides the trolling part is the whole point of making public comment. Okay. Procedurally, what that is you're giving the city official notice to give you what's called administrative relief, aka do what you're supposed to do, otherwise I'll sue. That's the whole fucking point. And the good news is that so many people are going online to some of the meetings that there's been a long enough tenure and making the next step, which is prosecuting civil cases. And so I've already talked to Audit, for example, to ask, would you be willing to come as a witness for some of the violations that the city is doing, like when they interrupt people during the public comment? And she's agreed. And so that is a good fucking next step where you're supposed to prosecute civil cases.
Note to self. All right.
I'm going to do it pro se on my own just to fucking get experience with it.
Hell yeah.
And the only thing that I'll sacrifice is my own time, but I'll learn a shitload. But eventually, if people really want to fucking do the next step, which is if there's people in the movement that are trying to go to law school, for example, hint, hint, wink, wink, and you want somebody like myself to be your lawyer, help fucking prop them up. And that's how you get reputable people to actually prosecute shit against the city, to hold them accountable so that they don't continue doing this shit, because cutting people off during public comment is the dumbest thing the city can do. But nobody challenges them on this. Nobody challenges them. And so that's why they'll continue to do it until you challenge them.
True. Well put. Well, I think I might need to head off soon. I got to take my dog for a walk, getting late late on the East Coast. But the last question I want to ask is, what's in your future? I heard you might be thinking about becoming an attorney, which I think you'd be kick ass with.
Yeah, I'm studying for the LSATs right now. It's a lot. So that's
Oh, you're already studying for. Oh, good luck.
yeah.
Shit.
So that's
Okay.
what I'm doing. I'm not gonna tell people what fucking school I'm going to because I don't want to be harassed or any of that weirdos fucking coming after
So
me.
he's
But
asking to show the dog.
oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway,
Dude, the people are here for the dog. I have zero
he has
problem with that.
fans. He
If
has
you showed the
fans.
dog the entire time and there was just a voiceover of you and I,
That's
people would
funny.
eat that shit up.
You're right. They'd probably appreciate it. But there he is. But good. So you're doing all right. So you're already studying for it. Good for you.
Yeah. So that's eventually I'll have to take the bar for because I want to get licensed to practice basically in the most corrupt states. You have Utah,
yeah.
Florida, New York, Massachusetts, California, Illinois, and yeah, there's like a couple others there, but those are primarily ones because that's where all the big fucking cases always happen. The
I hope you do
Epstein's.
California.
Yeah.
California or Florida, where New York, Scientology, because you can do 2 states, right? You're allowed to do that. Or am I
As
wrong?
long as you take the bar exams
Bar,
for each
right.
and pass, and even if you're not, and if you don't, if there's a case that somebody wants to bring forward, you can file what's called a motion for pro hoc vice, which is saying that you can appear as an attorney for that specific case in your full capacity to represent somebody or somebody's as your client. So that's not an
Yeah.
issue, really. It's not an issue.
Cool.
As long as you have a JD, because that's where most states. California is fucking weird with their requirements, but frankly, the best path to go is you get a JD, take your bar, get licensed after passing, and that's really all you need.
Cool. Well, I wish you luck, and let's try to do this, more often.
Fucking A, yeah,
I've
there's
been exposing a lot of truth. So we got 200
absolutely
people watching my end, so very healthy audience.
good. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
care much all views. Fucking, you guys need to make
All right.
Dodge go more viral. I mean, again, no
Thank
matter
you.
what people say, the fact of the matter is that he's consistently shown up, actually has given a shit to talk
Thank you,
about
Jacob.
this, and forget what you think about him. Give him the fucking super chats. Give him the money. Okay. Eventually, at some point in the future, obviously, I'm gonna. That was the whole point of getting involved with this. Build a network of people. So that eventually, when I do have my bar license and I can represent people as an attorney, we can have people like Dodge covering some of that news, and then we're connected to a whole community of people who, when they do inevitably get fucked over, especially in areas like LA, they can say, "I know a guy that will prosecute it and is very well in tune with what the hell is really going on and knows what he's talking about."
Yeah.
That's the whole fucking point of all that.
Well
So
put.
give Dodge
Yeah.
give Dodge your money. Eventually, if you want to contribute to, if all my scholarships don't pay for the whole thing, if you want to contribute to it, I'll let people know. But for now, give Dodge your money. Go.
Well, subscribe to Enry too. What is your channel officially? Film the Police LA?
Yeah, you can. The biggest one that I have that I think a lot of people care more for, I have one called Film the Police USA. I have my other main one, but if you go to that one has more of the political shit that people want to hear. So you can find that one.
Yeah, I want to do more, and I want to do more of the Scientology stuff, but it's a tightrope because things are fractured 4 different ways. So you used to get donations because everybody was allied, and now people are very angry if I say DOA has momentum and he did something smart, or DOA blew his case, and you're going to get anger from 50% of people. And so quite frankly, I've been very aggressive in trying to move away from it and doing other topics where, you're not going to lose support because there isn't this hyper partisan cult like devotion to one character or another. So it's been making me wary. And I think like part of me hopes to God, and exposing corruption is a big part of it. Part of me hopes to God that I get a bigger audience on things that have nothing to do with Scientology, because unfortunately, some of the audience, a big audience I deeply appreciate, and I have my own people, but a big chunk of the audience is so toxic and hostile, it makes it not worth it. But I'll still go, and I don't really care that much, but I appreciate that,
Yeah, people,
especially when you get guff from both sides. I don't really care, but it's just slightly annoying, I would say.
yeah, you got to understand, Scientology is one of the many criminal rackets. There's all sorts of shit.
Yes.
And the fact
Thank
that
you, Mark.
you can actually entertain some of the other ideas, and we can make it funny. Like
Right, they can be interrelated to each other too in some way
they
or connected.
absolutely are. Yeah, the only reason why shit like Scientology exists is because of government corruption. They're the ones that get paid off, look the other way, all that shit. So that's important. And there's a lot of ways you could cover that, make it fucking hilarious, and not be, just tied just to
Yeah.
Scientology. Because
Yeah.
again, it's not just Scientology. You can say you have your roots in it, but there's so much content, especially in LA. There's no shortage of shit to talk about, especially in places like LA, but even elsewhere. Even elsewhere. And
Well, I have my work cut out for me in New York. Yeah, a lot to do in New York while I'm here.
yeah, and if I'm ever back there, I'd fucking love to, show you around some of the boroughs that I've been in and some of the,
Sure,
but yeah,
absolutely.
nobody
Well, you
does
got a
local,
place to crash,
yeah,
obviously. so
nobody
whenever
does
you're-
local reporting. So there's no lack of
right.
content, and especially if you can make that shit funny, and especially if you just listen to some of the people I talk with,
Fun.
people
Yeah.
love you, man. They really do, and
Thank you.
especially people like Dodge who just have a flexible enough personality. It's not even an ass kissing thing. It's just you got to be able to fucking talk to people and not be so, this party good, this person good,
Right.
everything else bad. That's just stupid, man. Nobody wants to hear that shit. And no high schooler, by the way, is gonna come up and say, there's that one guy named The Lore of DOA that was really important to Scientology, and I wrote a whole history paper on him.
Good shit.
People have literally come up to William Good and said, I've written papers about you from high school and college.
Right, he's made a real impact.
An
Right.
actual
Not
fucking
DOA.
impact. From
Right.
youngsters to adults. Okay? That's how you actually get shit done.
Well put. Yeah, that takes some investment and stuff, but it's all worth doing. And certainly there's some of that in New York. But I'll be in LA for good for a while, probably come winter. So a lot of this,
So give
I'll
your money
be-
to Dodge. Give your money to
Thank you.
Dodge.
I appreciate that. Well, let's do another stream soon. Hopefully,
Yeah, would
maybe
love to,
later
man.
on next week or the week after. And there'll be a lot, especially post DOA hearing. There'll be a lot to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, man. You're the best. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. See you guys.